Welcome to Eldermere Nights. Take a deep breath, let go of the day behind you, and allow your shoulders to relax into the dark. Tonight, we are journeying to a forgotten place known as Summer Hill, where a gentle old stargazer waits for a single mysterious star that only appears to those who remember. So, close your eyes, pull the blankets close, and let the quiet magic of the night sky guide you into a deep, peaceful sleep. This is the Stargazer of Summer Hill. Long ago, beyond the golden fields and quiet villages of an old kingdom, there stood a gentle hill known as Summer Hill. The hill rose above the countryside, where wildflowers bloomed through the warm months and tall grass moved softly in the evening wind. During the day, shepherds sometimes rested there. Travellers occasionally climbed its paths. But when night arrived, the hill belonged to the stars. From its summit, the sky seemed endless. The constellations appeared brighter. The moon felt closer. And on warm summer nights, countless stars filled the heavens above. For generations, people had spoken quietly about Summer Hill, not because anything frightening happened there, but because something unusual appeared in the sky each summer. A single star, bright, gentle, and strangely beautiful. The villagers called it the Summer Star. It did not appear every night. Sometimes it arrived late. Sometimes it remained for only a few evenings. Yet every year, when the warm winds returned and the fields turned golden, the star appeared once again. Old stories said it helped people remember forgotten things. Some believed it guided travelers. Others believed it carried memories across the sky. No one knew whether these stories were true, but one person always waited for its return. An old man who lived alone upon the hill. His name was Arthur. He lived inside a small stone cottage beside an old wooden observatory. The cottage sat quietly at the top of Summer Hill. Its windows glowed warmly each evening. Its garden grew lavender and wildflowers, and beside it stood a round observatory whose roof opened toward the sky. Arthur had spent most of his life watching the stars. He owned no great treasures. He held no important title. Yet people from nearby villages often called him the Stargazer. Every evening, as the sun disappeared beyond the fields, he climbed the observatory steps, carrying a lantern. He opened the roof. He adjusted his old telescope. And then he waited. Arthur had followed the stars for nearly 40 summers. He knew the constellations. He knew the changing seasons. He knew when the moon would rise. And he knew where the summer star would eventually appear. Every year he looked toward the eastern sky, patiently, quietly, as if waiting for an old friend. Some evenings he simply sat in silence. The warm wind moved through the grass, crickets sang nearby, and the stars slowly filled the darkness above. Yet even among thousands of stars, Arthur always searched for only one. One evening, as the sun disappeared beyond the distant hills, Arthur lit his lantern and sat beside his telescope. The sky above Summer Hill slowly darkened. The first stars appeared. The fields below became quiet, and the warm air of midsummer drifted gently across the hill. Arthur looked toward the eastern horizon. His eyes remained fixed upon the same place they had watched for many years. Softly, almost as if speaking to the night itself, he whispered, "Perhaps this will be the summer." No one stood beside him. No one heard his words. Only the wind moved through the grass, and somewhere high above the sleeping countryside, one small star had not yet appeared. But Arthur continued to wait, as he had done every summer before. And far away, upon a lonely road leading towards Summer Hill, a traveller was slowly making his way beneath the stars. Far below Summer Hill, a young traveller walked slowly along a quiet country road. His name was Oliver. He carried a small satchel over his shoulder, a walking stick in his hand, and a lantern that glowed softly beside him. The day had been long. He had crossed fields, followed rivers, and passed through several villages. Yet he was in no hurry. The warm air of summer surrounded him. Crickets sang in the grass, and above him the first stars had begun to appear. As he walked, he noticed a small light shining far above the countryside. A single lantern, standing alone upon the hill, and beside it the dark shape of a small observatory. Oliver had heard stories about Summer Hill. Travellers often spoke of an old man who watched the stars. Some called him a scholar, others called him a dreamer, but most people simply called him the Stargazer. The young traveller stopped beside the road and looked upward. The lantern still glowed against the night. For some reason, he felt drawn toward it, not by curiosity alone, but by a quiet feeling he could not explain. And so, leaving the road behind, Oliver began climbing the winding path toward the hill. At the summit, Arthur sat quietly beside his telescope. The lantern beside him cast a warm, golden light. The grass moved gently in the evening breeze, and thousands of stars slowly appeared above. Arthur heard footsteps approaching. He turned and saw the traveller standing near the observatory. Neither man spoke for a moment. The silence felt peaceful. Then Arthur smiled. "You arrived just before the stars," he said softly. Oliver returned the smile. "I saw your lantern from the road." Arthur nodded. "Many people do." Arthur offered the traveller a blanket and invited him to sit beside the observatory. The air had grown cooler. The countryside below had become quiet. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. They simply watched the sky. Finally, Arthur looked toward the eastern horizon. His eyes remained fixed on a particular place. "The summer star should appear soon," he said. Oliver looked upward. "Is it different from the others?" Arthur was silent for a moment. Then he answered. "Some people spend their lives licking for it." He smiled gently. "And some people find it without even knowing." The stars continued to appear one by one. The lantern flickered softly. The warm wind moved through the grass. Oliver finally asked the question that had quietly been growing inside him. "Why do you wait for it every summer?" Arthur looked toward the sky. For a long time, he did not answer. The crickets sang. The fields below remained still. And somewhere above them, a single bright star had not yet appeared. At last, Arthur spoke. "Because some stars remind us of things we thought we had lost." He said nothing more. And Oliver, sitting beneath the endless summer sky, realized that the old stargazer was waiting for something far greater than a star. But what it was, the night had not yet revealed. The night grew deeper above Summer Hill. The last traces of sunset disappeared beyond the distant fields, and the sky became a sea of countless stars. Oliver sat beside the old stargazer. The lantern glowed warmly between them. Somewhere in the grass, crickets sang their endless summer song. Neither man felt the need to speak. The hill itself seemed to encourage silence. Arthur adjusted the telescope carefully. Then he looked upward. "The stars are never in a hurry," he said softly. "They arrive one by one." Oliver followed his gaze. For the first time in many years, he found himself looking at the sky without thinking about tomorrow. After some time, Arthur pointed toward a group of stars above the eastern horizon. "When I was young," he said, "my father taught me that every star carries a story." He showed Oliver the shapes hidden among the stars: a hunter, a ship, a crown, a distant bird with open wings. The old man spoke quietly, not like a teacher, not like a scholar, but like someone sharing old memories. The warm breeze continued moving through the grass. The observatory stood quietly behind them, and the stars slowly crossed the sky. As the stars continue their slow journey across the sky, take a moment to let the stillness of Summer Hill wash over you. If you are finding peace beneath this summer sky tonight, quietly leave a like and subscribe to rest with us again. Now, let us return to the quiet hilltop and see what the night will reveal. What brings you to Summer Hill? Oliver looked toward the dark fields below. I suppose I was simply walking. Arthur smiled. People rarely travel without carrying something. The young traveler remained quiet. At last he spoke. I do not know where I belong. The words surprised even him. He had carried them for many months, through villages, through forests, through lonely roads. Arthur listened carefully. He did not offer advice. He simply looked toward the stars. Sometimes, he said gently, we travel great distances only to hear our own hearts more clearly. The night continued. Arthur occasionally looked toward the eastern horizon. Always the same place, always with the same patient expression. Oliver noticed it. The summer star? He asked. Arthur nodded. It has not arrived yet. Does it always come? The old man smiled softly. Not always when we expect it. The answer seemed to hold another meaning, but Arthur said nothing more. The wind moved through the tall grass. The lantern flickered beside them, and above the hill, thousands of stars continued their quiet journey. As midnight approached, Arthur carefully covered the telescope. The air had become cooler. The fields below had fallen completely silent. Oliver looked once more toward the eastern sky. The special star still had not appeared. For a moment, he felt strangely disappointed. Arthur noticed. It may come tomorrow, or the next night. Some things arrive only when they are ready. The old stargazer stood slowly and looked over the sleeping countryside. Then he said, "If you wish, you may stay another night." Oliver looked at the stars, at the lantern, at the old observatory, and for the first time in many weeks, he felt no desire to continue walking. Far above Summer Hill, the stars continued shining, and somewhere beyond the darkness, one small light had not yet revealed itself. When morning finally arrived, golden sunlight spread slowly across the fields below Summer Hill. The grass sparkled with dew. Birds sang from the nearby trees, and a gentle summer breeze moved through the wildflowers. Oliver awoke beside the observatory, wrapped in the blanket Arthur had given him. For a moment, he forgot where he was. Then he saw the old Stargazer standing outside the cottage, watering his small garden of lavender and herbs. The morning felt unusually peaceful. No roads called to him. No destination waited. Only the quiet hill and the old man who watched the stars. Inside the observatory, Arthur showed Oliver several old star maps. Their paper had become yellow with age. Their edges were worn from many years of use. Each map showed the movement of the stars through the seasons. Arthur carefully opened one of them. "This belonged to my father," he said. Another had belonged to his grandfather. For many years, the men of his family had climbed Summer Hill and studied the heavens. Yet one page remained almost empty. Only a single small mark appeared near the eastern sky. Oliver pointed toward it. Arthur smiled gently. The summer star. The day passed slowly. They sat outside the cottage while warm winds moved through the grass. Arthur spoke of old sailors who followed the stars across the sea. He told stories of travelers who found their way home by moonlight. He spoke of shepherds, kings, and forgotten villages. But whenever the summer star was mentioned, his voice became quiet. He never explained why it mattered so much. And Oliver did not ask again. Not yet. Some questions he had begun to understand preferred to wait. As evening approached, Arthur lit his lantern once more. The familiar golden light spread across the observatory floor. The sky slowly darkened. Crickets began singing in the grass, and one by one the stars returned above Summer Hill. Arthur looked toward the eastern horizon again. The same place, the same patient expression, as if 40 summers had passed in a single evening. Oliver noticed something in the old man's eyes. Not sadness, not regret, but hope. A quiet hope that had never completely disappeared. Later that night, as they sat beneath the stars, Oliver finally spoke. "You've waited many years for the summer star." Arthur nodded. "Yes." "Are you waiting for someone?" The old stargazer remained silent. The wind moved softly through the tall grass. Far below, the countryside slept peacefully. At last, Arthur looked upward. His eyes reflected the stars, and very softly he said, "Perhaps." He said nothing more, and above Summer Hill, thousands of stars shone quietly. Yet, somewhere beyond the eastern horizon, one star still had not appeared. And Oliver began to wonder whether the old man had been waiting not only for a star, but for a memory that had never truly left him. The night grew deeper above Summer Hill. The lantern beside Arthur burned with a warm and steady light. The fields below had fallen silent. Only the crickets remained awake. Oliver sat beside the old stargazer, watching the eastern sky. For several nights, Arthur had waited. For many summers, he had waited. Yet the summer star had still not appeared. The old man seemed patient as the stars themselves. He held the small wooden box in his hands for a moment. Then he placed it beside the telescope. His eyes never left the horizon. As midnight slowly approached, Oliver noticed something. Low above the eastern hills, one small point of light appeared. At first, it seemed no different from the others. But as the darkness deepened, the star shone brighter, gentle, steady, beautiful. Arthur stood quietly. His eyes reflected the soft light. For several moments, neither of them spoke. The warm summer wind moved through the grass, and above Summer Hill, the summer star had finally returned. Arthur opened the small wooden box once more. Inside rested the old compass and the faded drawing of the stars. Many years ago, he explained, he had climbed this same hill with a dear friend. Every summer they watched the stars together. They spoke about distant places, dreams, journeys, and the future. One summer, they saw this same star appear above the eastern sky, and they promised that no matter where life carried them, they would always remember Summer Hill. Years passed, roads changed, people travelled, life moved quietly forward. But every summer, Arthur returned. Not because he expected the past to come back, but because some memories deserve a place beneath the stars. Oliver listened quietly. The night felt larger than before. The stars seemed brighter, and the worries he had carried along the road suddenly felt much lighter. Arthur looked toward him. The summer star does not return to remind us of what we lost, he said softly. It reminds us of what still remains. The old man smiled. The people we love, the places we remember, the moments that shaped us, those things never truly leave us. Oliver looked upward. The summer star shone gently above the hill. For the first time in many months, his heart felt calm. Before dawn, the eastern sky slowly began to brighten. Birds stirred in the distant fields. The stars gradually faded. Only Only the summer star remained for a little while longer. Oliver prepared to continue his journey. He thanked the old stargazer. Arthur simply smiled. "Whenever you feel lost," he said, "look up." The traveller walked down the hill as morning light covered the countryside. Behind him, the observatory stood quietly beside the cottage. The lantern had gone dark, but the stars remained above. And each summer afterward, travellers still climbed Summer Hill. Some came searching for stars, others came searching for peace, and many found both. For high above the sleeping fields, beneath warm summer skies, the old stargazer continued to watch the heavens, patient, gentle, and quietly grateful for the light that always returned. As the summer breeze moved through the grass and the first morning birds began to sing, Summer Hill grew peaceful once more. And somewhere above the world, one small star continued to shine, softly, steadily, like a memory carried through the night. The night upon Summer Hill is long and peaceful. Whether the summer star has arrived or is still waiting just beyond the horizon, it is time now for your own journey into dreams. Let the starlight watch over you. Let the warm summer wind carry away your remaining thoughts.